Hello.
Hello?
Hello, sir. To have you.
Well, I am on now.
Yes, sir. We'll begin at 11, sir.
But I thought you are the moderator, so you will start, isn't it?
Yes, sir. I will start, sir, and then I will invite you to make your opening, your welcome remarks, and then
Okay.
when you finish your remark, you would now invite Mr. Chairman of the branch. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
But can you see me?
Yes, I can see you, sir.
Really? But why am I not seeing myself?
Well, I don't know if you can see yourself.
I need to see myself so I know. I hope I'm well dressed. So I'm looking casual.
Well,
I hope it's okay.
It's okay, sir. It's okay. No problem. It's okay. Mr. Chairman, sir, good to have you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mimi. How are you today?
I'm fine, sir.
Yes. And how are we prepared for your event for today?
Well, I think we are good. I just, the thing, we have challenges with technology, but it's okay. So far, so good.
Okay. I'm
Yes,
happy
sir.
to hear that.
Thank you so much. Our panelists are already, they are ready also. They should be joining us any moment. Yes.
Mr. Chair, sir, good morning, sir.
Bulama, good morning. How are you today?
I'm good, sir. And how is the family?
Everybody is good, and I hope you are keeping safe.
We have no option.
Thank God.
We don't have option. Yeah.
Is the program on fully now?
No, sir, in 4 minutes at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
But the meeting venue is open, so people can we're beginning to have participants already.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's good.
Hello. Hello.
Distinguished senior advocates of Nigeria, elders of the bar, learned seniors at the bar, fellow colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the Nigeria Bar Association Abuja Branch Legal Committee on Legal Practice. I beg your pardon. Welcome to the Nigeria Bar Association Abuja Branch Committee on Legal Practice webinar themed Legal Practice and the COVID-19 Pandemic, Managing the Crisis. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite to the microphone the alternate chairman of the Committee on Legal Practice, Mr. Beatrice Bulama, for his welcome remarks. Over to you, Mr. Chairman, sir. His microphone is muted.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Mimi. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you. Now, good morning, everyone. My job this morning is simple. It's just to welcome all of us to this very novel virtual meeting, or if you like, seminar. which has been put together by the Committee on Legal Practice of the Nigerian Bar Association, the Unity Branch, Abuja. Without taking much of your time, I know this is not a speech-making event. I want us to go straight to the business of the day. But before then, I want to thank all of you for keeping faith by logging in this morning. And I'm confident that at the end of the day, we will all have every reason to be glad that we participated today. I want to thank the panelists, particularly our very respected elder, Otumba Deleoye, Oluchi, and Mr. Babatunde for accepting to share their knowledge with us this morning. So I want to thank you, and I promise you it's going to be an interesting session. But just before I take my leave, let me invite our very able chairman, the chairman of the Unity Bar, the indefatigable Mr. Abimbola Kayode, for a very short remarks, after which we just go straight to the business of the day. So, Mr. Chairman, sir.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Bulama. Let me use this opportunity to welcome each and every one of us to this webinar, well organized by the Committee on Legal Practice. I want to thank the committee members for the effort they put into today's event. I also want to appreciate each and every one of us that have been able to log in to the event. I believe it is worthwhile, and I believe the seminar could not have come at a time better than this. Let me appreciate the members of the panelists. I'm sure with their wealth of knowledge, you will gain something very substantial even in today's seminar. I will not want to speak too much. Let me give us time for us to have a fruitful and eventful deliberation. Please, let's all remember to keep safe. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, the indefatigable chairman of the Nigeria Bar Association, Abuja branch, also called the Unity Bar, Mr. Abimbola Kayode. It's an honor to have you with us this morning. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mimi Ayua, and I'll be your moderator this morning. Before we begin our session properly, may I seize this opportunity to relay to you our ground rules for this webinar. Firstly, we have 3 speakers who will be speaking to their slides briefly, and then we will take questions from the participants. Now, as you can see on your screen, we have what we call the participant control, and we have enabled certain tools on your Zoom app. Now, at the bottom of your device, you would see that we have the raise your hand icon. We also have what we call the question and answer box. We also have the chat room enabled. So participants who would want to give us feedback or interact with the host and panelists would do well to send us chats or questions via the tools as shown on your toolbar. We also want to relay to you our webinar values and culture this morning. Firstly, we would enjoin you to have respect for the rights and differences and dignities of other participants. We would also enjoin you to deal respectfully and of course with integrity and honesty with other participants. And we would also enjoin all participants to be accountable for their personal behavior this morning. Thank you so much for abiding by our webinar values and rules. Now, without further ado, our first speaker for today's session is a human resource consultant and a renowned practice manager. She is the managing director of A-Class Human Resources Consulting Limited here in Abuja. Distinguished participants and ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the microphone, Mrs. Oluchi Linda Ngwaji. Linda, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mimi, for the introduction. My name is Mrs. Oluchi Linda Nwajin. I am the Managing Director for ECLAT Human Resource Consulting. I am a human resource consultant and a practice manager. I also want to thank the Unity Bar Committee on Legal Practice for putting together this webinar. Our topic for discussion today is quite an interesting one. I also want to thank the sponsor, OM Atoyi BSc and our partners, for putting this event together as well and for inviting me to speak on our topic for today. So without so much introduction, let's move over to our topic of discussion for today. So our topic for discussion is the legal practice and COVID-19 pandemic, managing the crisis. So we'll be speaking from the HR perspective and that of the practice manager. Right. But first, let's understand what the basic function of this group of people are. That is the HR professional, the HR consultant, and the practice manager in our organization, and why it's important to have these categories of people in our organization. So the basic functions of these people, first of all, is recruitment. They are responsible for recruitment. They are responsible for legal assistance, supervision. They are responsible for the implementation of professional and best practice standards. They're also responsible for the dissemination of communication within the organization. They're responsible for making sure that the communication lines in the organogram of the organization are well charted. They are also responsible for practice operations and procedures. They are responsible for the strategy and the business continuity plan of the firm, the establishment. Just to mention a few, they are responsible for a whole lot of other things in the organization. Now, moving on to our discussion for today, let's look at what our discussion framework looks like. So, we will be talking about understanding the crisis. What do we know about the crisis? What lessons have we learned from our response during the crisis? We will be talking about leadership during the crisis. How can we as leaders impact our organization or our firm's structure and response during the crisis? What our structure of our firm should look like during this crisis. We'll be talking about those fears that we have for our practice during this time, those questions that we've been asking. We will attempt to answer some of those questions today. We would also be looking at the behavior of our firm during this crisis, and then we would attempt to summarize what we have discussed. So, moving on. Understanding the crisis, what do we know so far about the crisis? We know the name of what we're currently going through, COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus. We know that it's a medical situation. It's a virus that's biological in nature. We also know that the crisis, the COVID-19, is beginning to pose threats to our businesses, to our practices as a law firm. And we know that gradually the crisis is changing from a medical one to become an economic and a financial situation. So what lessons can we say we have learned so far from our response to the crisis? Because the truth is, we have already begun to respond to the crisis without even knowing it. So from our response so far, what can we say that we have learned? So we know that remote work is possible now, meaning that the conventional resuming work at 9 a.m. in the office and closing at 5 p.m. is no longer possible. So everyone is working from home. So we know that remote work is possible. We now know that personal health and safety is paramount, is very important. We know that technology now has a huge role to play in the future of the profession, which is the law profession now, because as people are working from home, they are basically communicating through their smartphones, through their laptops, as we are communicating now using the Zoom app for this webinar. We now know that working with emotional intelligence is highly important as business owners, as leaders, as employees. Working with emotional intelligence is important. We now know that there is a need to decentralize our structure. The days of the top-bottom form of leadership or structure in the organization is no longer feasible at this point. We also know that collaboration is essential because it is the future of the profession and it is beneficial to business owners and employees as well. We also understand that we have learned that real-time information is important. And to cap it up, we know that leadership now is vital more than ever. Now let's take note that the emergence of the virus has changed our reality and the operations of our business. It has created new markets for business to operate in. And where your business stands, where your firm stands, where your legal practice stands is entirely up to you as a leader. It is entirely up to you to make that strategic move. It is entirely up to you to position your business in such a way that it is accessible to the general public. So moving on. We know I stated earlier on that the COVID-19 is posing a threat, it's become a risk to our practice. What makes this risk different from every other risk that we have planned for or that we have mitigated against? First of all, we know that the basic idea of a risk is that it is an uncertainty, it is an uncertain environment that we're stepping into. This is not different from the COVID-19. We know that the coronavirus has created unprecedented times for us now. So what makes this risk different? As with preventable and controllable risk that we can easily predict and create situations to mitigate against them, the COVID-19 is different. It is different because it is a continuous moving threat. Now, because it is continuous, it has caused us to become anxious. As business owners, we are anxious because we cannot see an end time in sight. And this has made our decisions to become slow. So because we're not able to make decisions on time, because we're not able to take those decisions on time, it has affected the way we plan. So our planning has become slow. We are also anxious because the coronavirus is making us stressed. Because before the coronavirus, there are certain decisions we could take without putting different things or different variables into consideration. But now, before making any decision, you must put certain things, certain variables into consideration, such as your personal safety, such as the scarcity of supplies. It is difficult now to get certain things in our environment. So this is causing business owners to become stressed out. We also know that we are stressed out and we are anxious because the coronavirus is causing distractions. It is distracting us from the other vital issues in our firms and as individuals, such as making money and keeping the firm running and productive. It's making us taking our mind away from keeping us relevant. And this is, these are some of the questions that we will try to answer towards the end of this presentation. Now, moving on. So in a time where no one knows what to do, in a time where we are dealing with an uncertain risk, where we're dealing with an uncertain risk, where the threat is continuously moving, what do? We become great leaders. Now, like the famous Abraham Lincoln, his famous quote, he says, the best way to predict your future is to create it. This quote has never been much more relevant as it is now. The best way to create the future for your firm right now is best way to create that future is to create it. So how do we create that future? How do we create that future for our law firm, even as great leaders? We must remind ourselves that as leaders, we are tenacious, right? We find a way to make it work no matter what. We work harder and smarter because we know how high the stakes are. We must put our minds to it and find a way that works for our firms and our practice. What does this mean? It means that we must now more than ever think outside of the box as a leader. We must now more than ever be very, very tenacious. However, as leaders, we must resist the pressure of making decisions without thinking it through because we are under stress. As much as possible, we must stay away from being anxious. Yes, the situation is causing us to be anxious, but we must try as much as we can, to make decisions not based on our immediate feelings. We must also remember that these are uncertain times and it's okay to make mistakes because we can always change the process. Since we do not know what to do, what we can rely on right now is the process, and it's okay to make mistakes because because the threat, the risk is continuously moving. Our processes are adapting as our environment is changing due to the crisis. Now, what kind of leaders must we become now? Adapting to the threat is very key. But as leaders, what kind of leaders must we become to make sure that our practice, our law firm continues? In order to make smart and real-time decisions, we must become intelligent leaders, creative leaders, adaptive in nature, and distributive in structure. What we need right now in our firms is not a predefined response plan, but behaviors and mindsets that will prevent us from overreacting to the former developments rather looking ahead. What does this mean? It means that as against following the normal status quo, we must right now focus on plans that are flexible, plans that would help us continue to plan ahead as against sticking to what we already know. Now, how can our leadership impact our firm during this time? Through our structure and through our organizational response. Now, if you look at what is showing up on your screen, this is an example of what our firm structure should look like. But what should impose or what should impact our structure right now is who we want to be during this crisis and after the crisis. Our structure right now must represent who we want to be during this crisis and who we want to be after. What does that mean? How can we determine who we want to be during this crisis and after? That's a good question. Now, in all our firms, I believe that we all have what we call mission and vision statements. Our vision is our big picture, what we want to achieve at the end of the day. Our mission, there are incremental steps we take towards the achievement of our vision. Putting these two things together, we have in our organizations as core values. Now, in order for you to put the right structure during this time, your core values must influence structure. Now, it is these values that will determine what structure and what response your firm will be creating and giving out during this time. We should think of adopting the same structure we had when we started the firm. When you started your law firm, there were so many ideas, so many plans and practices that you put in place. This is a good time to go back to the drawing board and look at what those ideas and plans were and incorporate it in your new structure. So what should our structure be looking like right now in our firms? Our structure should look like this. It should be decentralized. It should be ready to adapt, and it should be creative and intelligent. What does this mean? When we say decentralized, it means that the idea of all the information and instruction coming from the top to the bottom right now must change. We must have leaders in different cadres, different levels of operations, so that it can ease the communication and dissemination of information. That hierarchical structure that we usually have in our organizational structure right now is not the best for us. So what we must have right now is a distributive or decentralized structure. When we say our structure should be ready to adapt, we mean that our structure must be flexible. We must create a flexible structure that can easily change. Remember, I said our threat is a continuous one, so our processes keep changing. Therefore, our structure should be one that is flexible to make sure that we can accommodate whatever change that occurs in our environment. This would also help when our structure is creative and intelligent. You do not have to look at what other companies or what other law firms are doing. You must create a structure that works for your own law firm, that is specific to your law firm. That's what we mean by being creative and intelligent. Now, when we talk about distributive leadership, this is what we mean. The top-bottom leadership and communication is over. This is where we have the traditional structure, like you have in a military terrain, where the instruction comes from the commander before it gets down to all the lower cadre. But in a distributive arena, in a distributive system, we have different leaders, as you can see in the slide, at different, it is more like a matrix system, where different people are responsible for different things, and the reporting line is not just straight. There are different reporting lines, and this helps the ease of disseminating communication. Real-time information is disseminated on time, and real-time decisions are taken as well. This will aid the flexibility of your structure. Our actions and decisions are contingency based. It means that it must be adaptive. Our structure must be adaptive. And the best way to get an adaptive structure is to have a distributed structure. The structure, like I said earlier on, is highly adaptive, it is flexible, and real-time information is communicated quickly. Influences the speed at which decisions are made. Compare this against the traditional structure that we have, where there's a lot of bureaucracy. Before a decision is taken, the director has to sign, and after the director has signed, the assistant director and then the deputy director, before it gets down to different people in the organization. This will take a lot of time. Because the threat is continuous, because it's not static, it is moving. We must move along with it. Now, how do we put our distributive leadership to work? Remember what we're discussing is how our leadership can impact our structure and what our response should be like at this time. So how can our distributive leadership work? We have to create a network of teams. Now, the team we are creating at this time is called the critical incident team. You can call it whatever team you want, but these are the people that are responsible for setting things during this time. Now, the network of team, we put people together in different teams for different reasons. You have the base team, you have your action team, and then you have your subject matter experts. Now I'll be taking each team one after the other to explain what their functions are and why it's important to have them. So let's start with the base team. Now, the base team generally the base team's function generally is that of oversight. Oversight on the action team and the different teams that will be formed under the action team. Now, the base team also is to take all decisions as it concerns the response to the crisis for the firm and its employees. Now, because of the peculiar situation that we are in, not everybody in the firm should be responsible for responding to the crisis, because it would cause a bigger distraction and delay in achieving deadlines and other assignments. So what can we do? We create a network of teams, different people responsible for different things. So we start with the base team that has a function of oversight. The base team is also responsible for taking decisions as it concerns the response to the crisis. So it is these teams' function to be responsible for taking care of the welfare of the employees at this time, taking care of the structure of the firm at this time. It is this team that is also responsible for overseeing what the action team is actually carrying out, what functions they are carrying out. Now, this base team will work simultaneously with the subject matter experts. Now, who are the subject matter experts? They are the consultants that your firm works with. Consultants in human resource, consultant, your practice manager, right now you would want to work with the HR, you want to work with the practice manager, you would want to work with a financial analyst, you would want to work with a public health person to give you real-time information on what is going on, so that the decision the base team will be arriving at is a well-rounded decision. It's not a one-sided decision, because it affects the firm and its employees. Now, what is the action team? The action team, on the other hand, perform various functions as it concerns the smooth running of the firm. If your firm is solely into litigation, your action team will be splitted into sub-units or sub-teams to be responsible for different assignments at this time. If your firm is a bigger firm that is involved not just in litigation, but in litigation, the commercial aspect, the corporate aspect, the research and development aspect, your action team will be divided into sub-units that will be responsible for these various departments or units that you would have it. They would also work with your subject matter experts as well. So at this time, your base team, your action team, and your subject matter experts or your consultants must work hand in hand so as to arrive at real-time decisions. Now, this structure would make your firm structure very flexible, because you can change up this team at any time. As the crisis progresses, the processes keep changing, as I've stated on. So your critical incident team can always change. The function of the base team can always change. The function of the action team can always change. So it is solely dependent on the crisis, your response to the crisis. Now, who are the people that should make up this team? The base team and the team and the sub-teams that come under the action team. Who are the people that should make up this team? They are the people that know your organization. They are the people that have the interest of the organization. They are the people that represent the organization and have the core values and understand the core values of your organization or your firm. Remember, we said your core values at this point is very important because it influences the type of structure, the type of teams, and what your response will be during this crisis. So these three categories of people must be present in the arrangement of your critical incident team. Now, while observing the crisis, like I stated earlier on, you can change your critical team and the strategies that they have adopted to respond to the crisis. Now, the basic assignment of all the teams, both the base team, the action team, and your subject matter experts, their basic assignment is problem solving. Why they have been put together is to respond to the crisis. Responding to the crisis in risk management is solving a problem. So their problem solving technique at this point is important. How are they arriving at the decisions? How are they solving the problems that the crisis is posing to our law firms? So they must, at this point, observe, they must orient, they must decide, and they must act. The acronym for this is ORDER, meaning that they must focus on your core values, your goals, and your priorities. Be overemphasized. They must understand the current situation, the crisis current situation, and the situation that the firm is as well. Then they come up with alternatives, different alternatives. Then they predict outcome. Based on each alternative, they predict outcomes that the alternative would create. They choose the best alternative and then execute or implement. This is the standard problem-solving technique. Following this procedure will ensure that the decisions that you're making will be made in real time, with real-time information, and also would cater for the needs of the firm and its employees at this time. Now, in the course of doing all this, there is a possibility that time will be spent arguing, wasting resources. What we call it in human resources or in practice management is process loss. Now, we have already established that leadership is important, teams are important, problem-solving techniques are important. We have also established that structures and workflow management is important. But then putting all of this together, how do we ensure that we are making decisions and responding timely? So that is what we want to discuss right now. Process loss. How do we ensure that we are not being distracted from the problems that we have been put together to solve? How do we arrive at this? First, we must be direct. We must be specific on what we want to do. We must be clear on directives that have been issued. Now, as a leader, when you're giving instructions, you must be precise, specific on exactly what you're asking, either your base team or your action team or your subject matter expert to do at this time. We must quickly cut out unwarranted distractions. It's easy at this time when people have been put together, either your base team or your action team, it's easy for them to digress into discussions of the coronavirus, to digress into the statistics, how many states are, how many numbers of people in what state has been infected, how many people are dead. It is possible and easy to digress, but we must refrain from such discussions. We must refrain from fixating on the problem, rather preferring possible solutions. And one very important aspect of process loss is psychological safety. As leaders, as team leads, we must create an environment that is enabling, a criticism-free environment where everyone is free to air their opinions. Now, what has this got to do with anything that we are discussing? Think of a focus group, right? The idea of a focus group is for people to come together, look at the topic of discussion, and prefer different ideas, scenarios, and alternatives to solving the problem. It's the same thing as what our teams are doing, the base team, the action team, and the subject matter. I think of them as focus groups. Now, the only way that you can get ideas that are meaningful is to allow everyone to speak. by the time you create by the time someone speaks and you say, oh, that's a foolish idea, or that's not the kind of idea we need right now, you're unconsciously or indirectly shutting down the ideas, you're putting down their morale, which would, result in people holding in their decisions or their opinions as to what, the solution is, and they could just have the best possible idea to solve the problem at that time. So this is very important to make sure that the environment is safe enough for everyone to speak up. Now, how can we create this psychological safe environment as leaders? Because as leaders, we are the ones championing our teams. So how can we create this safe environment? First of all, we must set the stage with transparency as it concerns the state of the firm. As leaders at this point, as business owners, we must be transparent with our employees. We must let them know what the state of the firm is in terms of assignments, in terms of finances, in terms of you name it, because as much as the firm is uncertain, the employees are uncertain as well. And without the employees, the firm cannot carry out its assignments. So we must create an environment of transparency where the leader can discuss with the employees. By so doing, the leader will create trust between himself or herself and the employees of the firm. Also, we must engage our employees by asking meaningful questions that will stimulate productive responses. If the questions are not meaningful, if they are not challenging questions, we would get the normal answers that they would give on a normal day. But because our situation right now is unprecedented, we must ask those tough questions so we can get valuable and productive responses in order to make valuable and productive decisions. We must also give encouraging and appreciative feedback. This is not the time to say to anybody that idea was a foolish idea or that idea right now is not meaningful. As much as we want to create, as much as we want to make decisions in real time, we must also give back encouraging and appreciative feedback so that the process of giving ideas continues. We must also identify threats to our practice during this crisis. This is very important. What is causing a threat to law firm A might not be a threat to law firm B. So it is important that putting your teams together, they must come up with the threats that this crisis is posing to your different law firms. Now, having discussed about this, let's gradually, move into what those questions are, those questions that we're asking during this time about our practice. What are they? What are those fears that we have about our legal practice as business owners and as employees? So I already said what those fears are, what fears we have during our legal fears we have about our legal practice. As a business owner, the first question you want to know is, how do I make income for my firm, my practice during this crisis? This is a very, very important question. It's a fear. And the crisis, like I stated earlier in the beginning of my presentation, I said the coronavirus is gradually becoming an economic and a financial crisis. So it is important at this time to understand how the firm can generate income during this crisis. So it is a valid question. What is the safety of my employees during this crisis? How long will the crisis last? Can there be growth and productivity of my firm during this crisis? Now, we will attempt to answer some of these questions. Now, when you talk about income for the firm during this crisis, there are several schools of thoughts during this crisis. The first school of thought is from research. Organizations fall under these four schools of thought. The first school of thought is we don't want money, we want to be safe, and we hope our cash would last for us. So what does this mean? Now, this group of people are not concerned about they're not concerned about getting new clients. They just want to reserve the cash that they've reserved. They want to forecast and predict and see how long it would last, and then gradually cut down unwanted expense to make sure that they are, carefully spending their money. The next category or the next school of thought are those that say we are managing our current clients like everyone else is doing. So this school of thought, they are not interested in getting in new clients. Rather, they are interested in maintaining the clients that they have, keeping in touch with them, placing phone calls to them, making sure that, whatever their client needs, they are ready to meet them at the point of their needs. Third school of thought is we are managing our current clients, but creating more value-added services for them. So the firms that fall within this school of thought, they are creating more value-added services for their clients. They are diversifying within the spectrum of their clients. So for a firm that has a service of only litigation, they are saying we would move out from just litigation. We will move into probably corporate assignments. We would move into commercial assignments for our clients. We will move into property management for our clients. This is what they are saying at this time, creating more value-added services for their clients. By so doing, they are generating more income for their clients during this crisis. Now, the fourth school of thought says we are collaborating and diversifying within the spectrum of our profession. What this means is that they are taking a new approach to their legal practice, just like, the big accounting firms, Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, and the rest. So what this means is that they are collaborating across domains, across disciplines, not just within their client spectrum. So they are collaborating with practice managers to see how their processes can be done faster. So they are collaborating with IT experts to see how their processes can be automated to meet the needs of their clients. So they are diversifying within domains, bringing in people that are outside the law profession to ease the delivery of services for their profession. And by so doing, they are meeting the needs of their clients, what the client has even requested for, and therefore generating more revenue for the firm. So these are the four different schools of thoughts that organizations fall under during this crisis. This is based on research. Now, it is left for you to decide where your law firm falls under, where your legal practice falls under. Now, back to the other question of the safety of our employees. So what that means is the only way to ensure the safety of your employees at this time is through leadership and communication, as we have discussed earlier on. Your communication through your distributive leadership structure that we have stated earlier on. The communication will be disseminated faster. Whatever decision that has been taken will be disseminated faster. You see in some organizations where they have 5, 6, 10 people working, now you can see just 2 people at a time in the office, 3 people at a time in the office, practicing social distancing, within the office as well. Before the lockdown. Now, even during the lockdown, people are now working from home. So these are some of the decisions that you make, but the communication of this decision is one of the things that would ensure that your employees are safe during this crisis. The next question of how long will the crisis last? Nobody knows, and that's the truth. But what we can do is to make sure that our processes are adaptable and they are flexible. Now, the last question, or the last threat, as we can see it, is the growth and productivity of practice of our firm during this crisis. Is this possible? Yes, this is possible. Your firm can grow during this time and you can be productive during this time. Now, growth can be measured in different areas. When you talk about growth, you can talk about capacity building for your employees. It is a form of growth, but a different aspect of growth. If you put into consideration the 4 different schools of thought that I just discussed earlier on how income can be made, financial income can also be stated as growth for the law firm or your legal practice. It is dependent on what category of growth that you want your legal practice to attain at this time, or your firm to attain at this time. So your firm can grow through collaboration at this time, like I stated earlier on, collaboration across domains, across disciplines. Your firm can grow through the introduction of innovation and through the introduction of strategy. Now we can also talk about capacity building. Capacity building in terms of training, or the trainings that you've planned for, you know, that you have budgeted for, that you want to take, but there has been no time, the orientation that your firm has been planning and replanning to take, those team building activities, this is the time to do that. You can go and take webinars like we're doing today, training sessions, workshops, online. As employees as well, what are those questions that we're asking? Will I be paid my salary during this crisis in full? Is it half salary? Is there no salary at all? How will I feed during this crisis? How will I feed myself? How will I feed my dependents, if you have any? My safety, I'm also concerned about their safety during this crisis. Also, employees are also concerned about their job security. Will I have a job during this crisis? Will I have a job after this crisis? What will be the impact of my performance on my job after this crisis? Now, what we will look at is we would attempt, you know, to answer some of these questions that you are asking. What are the solutions to these questions as employees that we're asking? Now, when it comes to salary, we know that, you know, following the development of the crisis, our government has made possible employment reliefs for business owners in terms of pay return on staff. So you can look into that on your own time. Because of time, I can't go so much into details to explain what that relief is. But looking at that relief analytically, it is not practical, in my opinion. So as an employee, the only thing you can do at this point is to rely on your employer, because decision of your salary is not within your power. But then what is within your power? Your performance is within your power. So improve on your performance. Be that employee that is the go-to person right now. Be resourceful. Be that employee that is thinking of, you know, the ideas, that is preferring solution right now. Be invaluable to your organization and do not be the weak link. Because the truth is, if this crisis continues, a point will come when business owners will decide to let some staff go. It is almost inevitable at this point. And they will start from the weakest link. So make sure you are the weakest link at this point. Show your abilities. This is the time, if you're an IT person, this is the time to show what you know. As a legal counsel, this is the time to show that you are knowledgeable about your area of practice. When it comes to safety, you must create a balance. Like I talked before, the issue of job security solely depends on your performance. Looking at it from the perspective of a business owner, right now, as an employee, in order to secure your job, you must work harder, you must work smarter, you must think outside the box, be the one to be resourceful, like I stated earlier on. What more can you do as an employee right now? You can show empathy to your employer, because this is not a good time for business owners. This is not a good time for employers. You can show empathy to your employer. You can negotiate with your employer. Imagine that you negotiate your salary with your employer. It would be good. Your employer would have no reason to see, you know, to let you go. So you can negotiate right now. I would be picking up the pace because I'm almost out of time. So what should our behavior be during this crisis? As an organization, as a law firm, what should our behavior be? What we've talked about our response, but then what should our behavior be? Our behavior, as a firm right now, in order to position our firm strategically and be more accessible, we must think of strategy for growth and continuity. We must think of collaboration, not just any collaboration, but and this hinges on diversity in terms of expertise. Remember, I talked about subject matter experts, which are consultants. Innovation, there is no doubt that technology has a role to play in the future of the profession. So we must think in the line, or we must focus on these key areas. Now, having stated that, adapting to the trend is key. And as leaders or business owners, we must study the space of our profession and make strategic moves that would align our practice with growth. So I will just state the name of this resource, and then on your own time, you can go and read about it. So this is a book. This was taken out of a book from Richard Susskind, which is titled Tomorrow's Lawyers. You can go and read it for your own. It is a great resource. So what is the summary of our thoughts? So from all that we've discussed and all that we have said, what can we take away? What we can take away is that some activities may not survive this new normal. Unique opportunities to create value over a longer period of time may appear. It is beneficial to think simultaneously about our practice during and after the crisis. Leadership is vital now more than ever. Thank you very much. Over to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda, for this brilliant management tips. Now, it has become more imperative as professionals that we rethink strategy, we also rethink skill sets, and of course, we rethink our risk management model. Thank you so much. It is entirely up to us as leaders, of course, to create our future in the legal profession. May I right away invite to the microphone our second speaker for today. Mrs. Oluchi has stated that we need to leverage technology going forward in our legal practice. Now, our second speaker is a fine gentleman. He is the head artificial intelligence and information technology strategies, I beg your pardon, at the OM Atoyebi SAN and Partners. Please help me welcome to the microphone, Mr. Babatunde Olatunde. Babatunde, over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Mimi Ayua. Thank you, last speaker also, Mrs. Oluchi Mwaji. Thank you very much. And my appreciation also goes to the Learner 6 available or at, online right now, senior members at the bar, learning colleagues and other persons present. And I also want to use this opportunity to appreciate Mr. Chairman, that's the chairman of the Unity Bar Abuja, that's MBA branch Abuja, the alternate chairman and the committee of legal practice, as for Nigeria Bar Association. Thank you for this platform. And as a bit of introduction, my name is Babatunde Olavisoye Michael. I am the head of, like the moderator said, I'm the head of artificial intelligence and information technology strategies at OM Atoyebi SAN and Partners. So the topic today is legal practice and the COVID-19 pandemic, managing the crisis. The first speaker has really dealt with the most of the topic, like let's say generally, and also in a way that affects legal practice. What I'll be speaking on is the framework for the use of technology during this pandemic, during the COVID-19 pandemic. So as a bit of introduction, this COVID-19 is not a new thing, and we pray we don't have so much of this anymore. And for now, we can just hope that it fades away really quickly. And the effects of the pandemic is not something that is new to us. And I can't give you the current statistics. As a matter of fact, this is statistics from just this morning. So it doesn't look like this pandemic is going to end anytime soon. So how do we navigate through these things? How do we get out of this mess? How do businesses stay afloat such that they do not fade out? Because it won't be a surprising thing when we find out that so many businesses start closing down or close down even after the pandemic. So how do we navigate through these things? This is what businesses are now going after, or this is what businesses are, the measures that they are taking. It's just technology. Even the legal profession, we know that we are not so we are not so fast at taking these technologies. But I believe during this pandemic and even after, we are going to see a very quick digitalization of the legal profession. We'll be forced to take all of these things. And don't be scared when you see robots taking over your jobs, or when you get to the office and you start seeing robots. That's just a joke, actually. So the technology and legal practice, yeah, it's true. This is the time for IT personnel to shine. Yes, it's a big period for IT experts. Now, technology and legal practice, it's not a new synergy. It's not a new scope. As a matter of fact, most law firms, I'm talking about the big law firms now, are ready for, if they've been ready since maybe 10 years ago for this whole thing, because they've embraced technology and they've been serving their clients through technology. Some of the trends that I would mention are word processing softwares, backup softwares, practice management software, accounting, timekeeping and billing software. We also talk about cloud storage. It's not a new thing. Social networking is not a new thing for law firms too. As a matter of fact, most law firms are on social media right now. If you're not on social media, they are missing out on a lot of things. We also talk about e-discovery and firms' websites. Most firms now, I'm talking about the big law firms, have their websites on there, and they are using these websites to create good awareness, and one way or another they showcase themselves through it. I'm also looking at collaboration and consolidation. It's technology that it's enabling these things, and virtual law firms are not new also. I'm sure we would have heard about a couple of virtual law firms, and even traditional law firms also putting up their services as in the virtual space. So we also talk about smart contracts, artificial intelligence, that is fast forwarding to this period, and we'll talk about big data and machine learning. So the effect of the COVID-19 on legal practice, I had to just sum it up to one thing: physical communications. So what's the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on the legal practice? We talk about physical communications, like I said. Everything is on lockdown. The measures that are taken to curb the virus or to curb the spread of the virus is basically lockdown, and then everybody is just shouting about this. So, and this is really going to affect a lot of things. So physical communications, a lot of businesses rely on physical communications, especially the legal profession. You talk about courts, you talk about your employees, you talk about your clients and the rest. Everybody is relying on seeing one another face to face. So how do we navigate through this? So the measures that have been taken by different territories is to lock down their countries or to lock down their states. So this way is to limit the amount of communication. I'm talking about physical communications that people have, so as to curb the virus. And like I said, we are going to be expecting a very big turnaround and a turbocharging of the legal profession into the digital age. So how do we now classify all of these things after physical communications? We talk about on court proceedings. Recently, it's not a new thing that most, in fact, all courts now are on lockdown and they only take important cases. So how do you go about your own practice, or how do you go about your own civil matters that are in court that the CJ does not seem to see that it's very important for you to hear it at this time? So we have to still rely on technology, on law enforcement technology, on client-lawyer relationship, it's still technology, and on law firms and their employees, it's still technologies. Everybody is shouting about information technology. Everybody is talking about technology. So what are the tech solutions that are available? In the next couple of slides, I'm going to be explaining very briefly how these things are going to be very helpful. So I outlined some things, then bullet points. So I'll talk about them now. The information technology team, very important. You need an IT expert. Now that the expertise or the knowledge is not available to everybody, it's this time that you really need a professional. So what are the roles of the IT expert? The IT expert manages the firm's website, manages internet connectivity. It basically takes care of everything that relates to hardware and software communications, or hardware and software features of your law firm, and find a technological solution, infotech and solutions to you putting out your practice, or for you to practice out there. Now, we also talk about the content creator. The content creator, in this slide, I try to bring them in an order: content creator to the graphic designer, social media manager, and digital marketer, which is optional. For the content creator, it generally creates content that suits the firm's area of expertise. He understands your brand, and then it generates content to suit your mission and your vision. So that way he posts them on social media, or sends them to the social media manager, or he sends them to the graphic designer to create very good or beautiful graphic contents for them. And then the graphic designer sends them over to the social media manager. And this in basically to create awareness for your firm. You're not marketing your firm, you're just creating awareness for your firm. So now, when people see what you are doing, and when people know that you are still in existence, or you do so thing, or this thing, or this other thing at this time, people are going to come looking for you. I put the digital marketer there because he can double as the social media manager and the content creator, because he basically understands marketing and also understands your vision and your mission and everything that you do in your law firm. So for emails and file sharing, it's very important that you have a custom email for your firm, such that you have maybe, let's say, so@lawfirm.com. It works like that, yes. Your IT expert will be in the best position to also advise you on this. So other ones would be, I'm talking about file sharing applications now: Microsoft OneDrive, Microsoft SharePoint, Dropbox, Box, G Suite, and Google Drive also. So we'll move on to phone communications. You're going to be relying on a lot of phone communications. You're going to be making a lot of calls. Now, in bid to cut down all of that, all of those costs, you have to rely on, say, applications like WhatsApp. You create a group for yourself. You create a Facebook page, and people message you on there. Then you, through Facebook Messenger, you can easily chat with people also, and it also synchronizes your SMSs. So teamwork and collaboration softwares. We talk about Microsoft Teams. Yes, there are no tailored law firm applications, especially for Nigeria now. So I would recommend Microsoft Teams because it's scalable, and you can really tweak it to match whatever you have to do. So you can create a team space there, and you manage projects, and you do a lot of teamwork. So move on to video conferencing. Zoom is not a new app. A lot of people have been using Zoom for their office meetings and for conferences and webinars and the likes. So it's also what we are using right now. So you have to be familiar with it. So it's a way for you to have meetings with your people, to have meetings with your law firm and every other person, your clients and your employees. So we also talk about Skype, which offers similar services, and Google Hangouts. So for websites, it's very important for your law firm to have a website at this time, because you will have to create awareness one way or another. Make sure that people know that you are still in existence. That's for people who do not have websites now. I want to believe that most law firms have websites now. And if you do have a website, I think it's time for you to start considering updating this website, because people can visit your location right now. So, but people can visit your website. Let them know what you are doing. Let them know what you offer at this time. So we also talk about LinkedIn, which provides the largest space for professionals. So you can put on your profile there. People are going to see you and going to come looking for you. So also Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So let's talk about e-libraries. E-libraries and electronic law reports. We know about electronic law reports, maybe e-libraries, yes, also. So Lawyer is what I would recommend for Nigeria. There are a couple of other ones, but I believe they have a large space for legal content. So Harvard Law School Library, also have LexisNexis, Westlaw, Oxford, a lot of them like that. For electronic law reports, we are all familiar with Law Pavilion. We are also familiar with Nigerian Weekly Law Reports. If you're not, yes, they are online and you can subscribe to them. You can get law reports online also. So we also talk about Legalpedia. So artificial intelligence solutions. Now, we're talking about the previous things that I just mentioned. I believe most people would be familiar with these things. So maybe to take it to the advanced level, artificial intelligence is really not a threat to law and not in any way going to eradicate human input in the legal profession. It's just assistive method. So I'm going to talk about a couple of these things. They are one way or the other. They help to boost your practice. Relativity, for instance, it offers document automation, also offer analytics. ROS also is you can browse on these things, but I would really love to talk about these things one after the other, but you can just write them down and also do your research on them. These things are really, really useful, especially as it relates to speed and accuracy. Right now, you can work faster with this technology solution. So what are the challenges and what are their recommendations? In my own opinion, I believe these are the challenges that we are currently facing or you might actually face when you're trying to implement these things. Talk about unavailability of equipment. This equipment might not be, yes, we're talking about information technology. We don't use information technology and all of those things. So how do you get laptops and phones at this time? In my own opinion, if I would recommend, you can order for these things online. There are e-commerce websites that are available in which you can order for these things and they will deliver to your location. Electricity challenges. You can look for alternative power supply in your area. One I would recommend is solar power. It's a general thing in the country and you can't take that as an excuse at this time. So you can also buy generators too. Access to good and stable internet. The way around that is for you to just go to your location, look for the best internet service provider or the fastest there. That way you can get the best of what these people can offer at this time. Cybersecurity issues. Now, this is not a new thing. As a matter of fact, it's one of the biggest threats to technology these days. So one way to tackle this, or the best way to tackle this, is you have to consult an IT expert if you do not have one employed already. So how do you make sure that these things are in place? These cyber security measures are taken is the IT expert. As much as I can tell you to install the latest antivirus, not click on any useless links or links that you can't identify. Now, your IT expert will be in the best position to advise you on these things. So we'll talk about distractions. For distractions, there are a lot of softwares. I'm talking about Android softwares now that you can use in limiting your use of applications. And we know that there's off time, there's moment, there's flipped, and there's stay on task, and a lot of other things. And for millennials now, I think discipline would be very, very important. I don't think the older or the senior colleagues at this time will have a problem with distractions because they are more disciplined. Now, limited knowledge and expertise. A lot of these hardwares and softwares that you're going to be using have their own tutorials on how to use them. Now you can gain a lot of knowledge on how to use all of these things while you are using them. Limited data. Now this might be one of the biggest threats to artificial intelligence, especially as we have in Nigeria these days. We don't have a lot of content out there. I believe right now people are going to be uploading a lot of content, and that problem would not last. So a lot of articles, a lot of laws and all of these things will be online, and we can easily move into the artificial intelligence age. So as a bit of recap, I spoke about the COVID-19 generally and how it has affected the economy at large and also businesses. And we moved down to how it has affected the legal profession, especially as it relates to physical communications. We believe, or I know, or let's just say, yeah, as we all know, that the legal profession is really dependent on physical communications, and we are still in a traditional practice largely. So I also said it's not going to be a new thing, or it's not going to be surprising if you are seeing everything being digitalized in the legal profession. So we moved on to the technological solutions that you can use in driving through this period. So your IT experts and the team, and we talk about file sharing applications, we talk about websites, we talk about video conferencing apps, we talk about phone communications and a couple of other things. And fast forward also to AI solutions if you want to go advanced to the newest technologies, then the challenges and recommendations. So thank you very much once again. My name is Babatunde Michael Olafisoye. I'm a lawyer, and I'm the head of Artificial Intelligence and Information Technology Strategies at OM at HCN and Partners. Thank you very much for having me. Over to you, moderator.
Babatunde, for your succinct presentation on the use of technology during and after COVID-19. It has become imperative for legal practitioners to leverage on technology, as it shall be the new normal post-COVID-19. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me invite our third speaker, and the last, but he's certainly not the least. He is one of our very learned seniors, partner, Dele Oye and Associates. He is one of the founding partners of Consolidated Legal Practice. He is the president, Legal Cyber Innovation Foundation. He is chairman and director of several other commercial entities. He has been an active player in the National Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, and also the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He is the current second deputy president of NASEMA. He is also the president, Nigeria Turkey Business Council. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the microphone, Otumba Dele Oye. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. You can see me. Well, first of all, I want to thank the Nigerian Bar Association Abuja branch, especially our chairman, for the opportunity to give this lecture. I also want to thank the sponsor, OM@OABSA, BSA, and also Mimi for all you've done. I want to commend the co-speakers because I think they virtually has taken care of everything. And one of the this thing you have to face when you are the last speaker is that everybody would have said everything that is relevant. So you just say, I agree, I adopt, and I just compliment all that has been said. My approach to the issue is basically to let you know, I've prepared a 42-page slide and I will just speak to it so that because there's no time. But I will start first by saying that I did legal research on coronavirus under our legal jurisprudence in Nigeria. And I discovered that there is no case called coronavirus together. I saw the cases where names came up as corona, and but indeed, what was important that I observed was that the issue of virus has always been mentioned in our legal jurisprudence. And there are several cases where the court have held that if your processes are affected by virus, then it becomes the proceedings. What this means is that is currently COVID-19 5,078,000. America is they have about 825,306 affected and 45,000 over 45,000 deaths. So don't let anyone fool you as a lawyer. COVID-19 is real and it has grave implications. And I urge everyone to obey the directives of the government and stay safe. Coming back to the paper, I've on the page 2 of the slide, as you see, I've identified where the COVID-19 started. And I know a lot of us have tend to pick up our detour and say that, oh, the thing has always been here. It's true, coronavirus has been mentioned in those things, but it is a different species. COVID-19 is a different species of coronavirus, and it is deadly and dangerous. Then page slide 3, I went off to let you know that is third slide, please. I said the disease has led to panic demand for goods and services. Decrease and increase in this demand is mostly felt. If you are dealing with luxury goods now, you likely have to have zero demand. But if you are dealing with essential commodities like foods or even hospital materials required for this, is naturally having a high demand. In my slide 4, I went further to mention that is slide 4, that one of the most impacted sector is the provision of legal services, especially our work in court. As court appearances due to restriction in movement have virtually been frozen or suspended by the order of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, which initially suspended court proceedings and subsequently said should be indefinitely after the 2 weeks initial distance. So although in that suspension, there was a window for time-barred or very significant important cases, but it's been difficult because of restriction of movement for our colleagues to be able to discharge their duty. On slide 5, I've also said that the pandemic has led to increased business closures, global uncertainty, and revision of downwards of national and global economic targets. It's also led to destruction of goods and services. And in our, especially the oil price, we're all witnesses to what the oil is selling for below $1 now. In developing countries, tracing of index cases are more difficult due to lack of digitalized services and poor contact tracing of COVID-19 pandemic index cases. And this is actually quite applicable to us because in most houses, for them, then how does it affect the legal profession? I've mentioned that the legal profession is divided into 2 parts. And there's also this argument that the barristers are more affected, or the lawyers in litigation are more affected than the solicitors. That indeed, the solicitors can work from anywhere. But if you see the level of businesses closures, there's no way the solicitor's client will not also be impacted. So the effect is on both sides. It all depends on the attitude of the lawyer. I go to slide 8 now. A lawyer, one of our colleagues in an article said that the effect on litigation lawyer is loss of livelihood, loss of production, and in that paper, it now suggested that they should take online courses and diversity and diversify. I will now want to deal with on slide 9 the effect of COVID-19 on the legal profession. I've submitted here that the effect is substantial and earth-shaking. While no study has been done on who is most impacted within the legal profession, it has been suggested that the effect is more likely to be on the legal practitioners who practice as barristers and solicitors. And that while the cause has been suspended by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, solicitors who by their nature can still work remotely. I beg to disagree, like I've said, with this, and that what the effect is most on our attitude and response to it. I will explain that later. I go to page 10 now, slide 10. I said legal firms with no contingency plans and funds. I think all of us are affected there. On the face of jointly revenues with partners and employees' emoluments falling due, rents and other obligations outstanding, with the reduced or non-existent new revenue streams, are going to face likely disruption of services, even within their firms. Because if you have no new client income and you're on the face of your rent is running, your staff salaries are running, you're going to have likely closure of firms, inability to pay salaries, and even mergers and acquisition within law firms. The pandemic also represents a huge opportunity. It's very important to digitalize our cost systems, law firms, and acquire digital training for the bar and the bench to enhance service delivery. And I've also, my friend on my slide 11, I've mentioned some positive impact which the of the court processes would, and is this. I said the positive impact of automation by firms and courts. I've listed them just to complement what the last but one speaker said, but I will mention here very importantly, the second one, which is that it saves time. Currently, we experience between 15 to 20 years for a case to go from the High Court to the Supreme Court. And I think the digitalized process, this time would be seriously can be reduced. Then we also have the issue of person-to-person contacts, which will minimize corruption and other sharp prices currently existing in our systems. So, and also mention the issue of side decisions, where you have situations where in the Court of Appeal today, where in Nigeria, we have several decisions conflicting with each other. If all our processes are properly kept, it will be very difficult or practically impossible for courts to overrule themselves without knowing about what the previous judgments are. So on page 12, I've also dealt with the challenges to automation, which last speaker has also dwelled with robustly. And part of the biggest problem is we have both technology challenge within the lawyers, our support staff, judiciary staffs, and indeed our clients. And the issue of internet has been dealt with, and most importantly, the issue of finance. Finance is a double-edged sword. You are not getting any new income, and we are asking you as lawyers to digitalize. The next question you are going to ask me, how? But I don't think I would also try and demonstrate later that how you can get the money, the savings that will come out of this pandemic for you to be able to digitalize. And on page 12, I address the issue, 13, sorry. On page 13, I've addressed the issue of attempts to mitigate the effects of the pandemic within the legal profession. And the president of the New South Wales Law Society, Richard Harvey, expressed very fully how the pandemic affects the legal profession. He said, I quote, I have stated many times in recent days, our priority is to support our members now and in the future. There has never been a greater need in recent memory for a strong, united, and independent legal profession. Then the other attempts that have been made to mitigate this thing on page 14, slide 14 now, is the several countries, including Republic of Uganda, Kenya, and the United Kingdom, have taken advantage of technology to conduct remote court proceedings. and their respective governments. Then now say of the United States announced recently that they are going to have oral arguments by telephone. And to meet the requirements for public hearing, they will run the proceedings live to the public. I think our Supreme Court can take a lean from this. Then I did our court system in Kenya, that's slide 16. In Kenya, on the 3rd of April 2020, a justice of the Kenyan Court of Appeal delivered 57 rulings over Zoom, which we are currently using for this webinar. So it's not something new. And in Nigeria, indeed, we are quite happy to say our Attorney General has also embraced the need for remote proceedings and indeed for the courts to find a way to deal away with digitalize the courts and also apply the Administrative Criminal Justice Act of 2015 and also release most of the persons on minor offenses, also give custodial, non-custodial sentences in minor cases and all this, which is a very welcome development. And the action of the Chief Justice of Nigeria is on slide 18 on this, what he has done so far in the pandemic. I've already mentioned earlier that there were 2 circulars that have been issued by the CJN and they are being complied with. And indeed, I acknowledge here that under the Federal High Court rules and the National Industrial Court rules, filing of court processes, hearing and signing of processes can be done electronically and are provided for in those rules. And I urge the courts to take full advantage of these their rules and have remote court proceedings. In the Federal High Court, my slide 19, the Chief Judge recently gave a circular on 20th of April 2020, asking all the Federal High Court judges to move to their various locations and take over their courts by 21st day of April 2020, and to conduct proceedings in compliance with the CJN circular. While I appreciate the effort of the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, my only problem here is how would how would the judges be able to move if they are in locations where there are restrictions of movement? I think we should be able to find a way to facilitate their move to their various courts so that important cases that are time barred, as the CJ has said, or very cases dealing with incarceration of persons who ought to be family. The number is quite commendable, which most states can copy. A practice direction to have remote proceedings during this period. The practice direction was issued pursuant to section 6.6 of the 1990 Constitution as amended, section 7 of the High Court of Lagos State Law 2015, and under the other 49 rules 1, 2, and 3 of the Lagos State High Court Civil Procedure Rules 2019. I think this is very important and commendable, which I think most of our states should adopt so that we can have remote proceedings. And this also will also have the impact on our colleagues who are in litigation for them to fully resume work and be able to do their earn a living. The Justice Reform Project have also written to the Chief Justice of Nigeria in a letter dated 14th April 2020, requesting for the CJN to possibly consider remote proceedings. They even went further to do a draft what the rules will look like so that which the court should adopt. I also recommend that the court should also look at this because it's a very good development. Then on the issue of, as a slide 22 now, the Bar Association's responses, I've tried to look at in different jurisdictions. In England, United Kingdom, in England, Solicitors Benevolent Fund has been set up by solicitors, Benevolent Association, established over 160 years ago. They invested a sum of £1 million, where they used to support solicitors who are impacted by COVID-19. Also, the barristers in England also, the profession is divided between barristers and solicitors there, have also followed similar procedure to help colleagues in distress during this period. The Inns of Court also in England have also followed by making provision that lawyers that have less than 2,500 pounds in their account, they should be able to qualify for this support during this period. And in fact, in New South Wales in Australia, the bar pricing fees was reduced for the year 2020 to 2021 from $410 to $10. And I think this is commendable. And in Nigeria, what has our bar association have been doing on the pandemic? On slide 24, this refund 10%, which is what they normally remit of bar pricing fees to all branches. There's nothing new here. This is what they normally remit. The NBA should try to go beyond the ad hoc response by also setting up similar funds like in England to support colleagues that are impacted by COVID-19. I must also mention here and commend the individual lawyers, very senior lawyers, who have also donated to junior colleagues during this period. And in fact, one of the senior colleagues even gave ventilators to the government. And finally, again, on this point, we suggest that the NBA can do more by giving more out of the pricing fees collected from the legal practitioners. The reason for this is that the NBA branches welfare fund, and I'm paid to the welfare fund in the branches, because most of the conferences planned for this year by different committees, and maybe the annual conference, are likely to be held remotely. And this conference run into billions in their budget. They should be able to send money on that. And I've now coming back to how we survive under COVID-19. I was quite persuaded by that is tips to man. You have to adopt into what the last but one speaker said. You must digitalize. There's no option. That is the only way to survive. And what I've put here on page 25 are tips to market your law practice by Larry Bowden. He gave 12 tips, but before I go into this, I know people, there are persons from different jurisdictions who are not restrained by our own practice rules. But in Nigeria, we have what we call rules of professional conduct for legal practitioners. I urge colleagues to familiarize themselves, especially with rules 39 to 47, which deals with, those rules deals with how much you can advertise. It's very important because I don't want in the process of trying to survive, you lose your license. So some of the things we recommend here, some of the ideas we're going to recommend may not work for Nigeria. But just for the benefit of our colleagues who are participating in this webinar from outside Nigeria, I've definitely put all that is available. So I've taken the pains here to show under one here, say you have the first thing you must do in this pandemic is to call your current and past clients to check in on how they are doing. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of text messages go around. Stay safe, because there's no way people are going to appreciate that, oh, you are caring. Then secondly, you turn your attorneys into visible experts online. So those of us that are sleeping online, positive. What you should do, you want to give opinions and ideas. People are watching you, and it's a good platform to market your firm. Then 3, you must spend 4 hours per week, if possible, on business development. On slide 26, what I've meant by that is on the business development as rainmakers. In rainmakers, it means those guys who are involved in practice normally go for the marketing. They are lawyers because they generally engage in 4 activities. And according to the African Bar Association, law practice today, they go out and see clients. they go out and see clients. They are active in trade organizations or business groups that includes potential clients, like the chambers of commerce. I will tell you here that I'm a member of Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, NASIMA. And during this period in NASIMA, we've been able to get federal government approval for all our members to operate during this period. They can travel from Lagos to Maiduguri and they are not restrained. And in fact, I think the legal profession should be one of the professions that should have this kind of permit or pass. So what I'm trying to show you is, some of us, I'm in the office today, some of us are able to go anywhere we want to go, even though there is restriction on movement. So this is important, so that when you are a member of such organizations, you're able to also take the benefits outside the profession to support your business within the profession. So we have, you also have to develop an extensive and expanding referral network. You also have to engage in quality contacts. It's very important. Then it's very important also the kind of questions you ask when you have these contacts. The contacts can be over the phone, can be on the webinar like this. If you are in an estate practice law firm, you ask questions from your potential client about their parents and their issues. Then if you are a lawyer in personal injury, accidents, or this thing, you ask about driving, without alcohol and everything, so that the questions you ask must be relevant to the person. It's very important, and you listen very well when you ask questions. And once the person you ask a question start talking, you're already getting the client. That is very important. So this is not the time to make noise, but the time to listen more. Then on number 4 on the list I've put there is that you beef up your website. This has been dealt with very well by the last speaker. I don't need to spend time here. That's by creating a that is very nice, a word of mouth with online reviews. Market your listing, market with, I'm talking about page slide 28 now, please. Because you're part of what kind of now, because the millions are likely to go online and also find out who are there, and even give information to your potential clients, whether they are parents or business partners. So it's very important that the millions now, whatever you're doing, you should be able to put it on those platforms, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, and all of Instagram, very important. Then Facebook, these are platforms which is very important because social media, this is no longer on serious platforms. There are serious platforms and you have to put information out there. I've also put it that you have to also market to millions. Market your make sure your website is easily accessible on mobile phone. Very important. If it's too heavy, get them to do it to be able to use it on mobile phone. You can even set up a video studio where you do your webinars so that you can have proper lightings and properly arrange for people to see you. Then your attorney lawyer, that's your lawyer's bio, should also be well written and precise. Then I said you can also try to blog. I have identified what I call make words. I've listed them from there that say 90% of clients are now on the web. Time to create new areas of practice. This is very important. It's no longer that I only go to court, I don't do another thing. You are not too old to learn anything. All this we are talking about now, by January this year, none of us will learn new things and adapt to it. Then you leverage digital marketing, try new things, automate. Data privacy, I've mentioned, reduce manual tasks. Then you have to reduce manual tasks. Reallocate resources. And this is what I wanted to mention. People will ask you, where am I going to have money now to buy computers when in this thing? If you are going to get most of your clients online, then it only makes sense that you should reduce your office space or size, because if your lawyers are working remotely, there's no use having a 5-story building office system because it's going to be empty every time. So the savings you can make from that reduced rent and use of space, you can deploy to automation. I mean, it's an option you should consider, because most of your clients are going. Then ability to access business is flexibility. It's very important for you to be flexible. There's no use to say, I'm too proud to learn anything. No, you should be flexible. Then look at your environment, be environment scoping, page 30. Make new connections. Join the right group. It's not a WhatsApp platform that you fight every day that is the right group for you. You should look for a group that you can gain something. Join the right group. Introduce yourself to relevant organizations. Then you have to optimal use of your time. It's very important. You make virtual calls. Outsourcing, where you don't know anything, you can outsource. You can outsource expertise and also make money from the in-between. So you take the brief as, okay, I don't know anything about maritime, but you look for a friend that's good in maritime and outsource. And both of you share fees. It's allowed under the rules. Then stay relevant during this period. Those of you that have been sleeping, getting fat, this is the time to work more. You must write articles, be involved in webinars, like deliver lectures. You have a lot of knowledge to share. So please, it's very important. Don't waste the time. Then then I said, develop track record and success stories. Imperative to project your firm as part of the solution. This is very critical. Those of us that say, if you watch people that tell you, oh, things are very bad, anybody that talks like that, if you go there 20 years, it's still the same thing. We as lawyers benefit from crisis. I need you to look at this as an opportunity. Don't be one of those that is crying. In fact, you should be able to give courage to your clients, encourage them. And that for you to be encouraged yourself will be part of it. Be humble is very important. You have no expertise will be willing to learn. So if you are not humble, you are talking down on people, nobody will listen to you. You have to self-train, spend less time on things that are not important. Then very important, I said, develop a social impact strategy for your business. During times like this, there are a lot of social impact investments that come from different parts, even from these palliatives government is giving. These are parts. There's a 50 billion naira CBN NISA fund, which are given to people virtually for little or no condition. I've tried to see how lawyers can be expanded to include lawyers, but the business community are collecting the money. You apply online and you do that. So it's very important you take note of this. I have put this up that what is happening now happens in every profession. So when the fisherman cannot go to sea, they repair their nets. The question I'm asking you, are you repairing yourself in this lockdown? Or are you just crying about it? That question you have to ask yourself. Then in conclusion, at page 32, I've said that the effects of coronavirus has come to stay, whether we like it or not, even if it goes tomorrow. It's just like 9/11, where the terrorists has shaped the way we fly. So whether any lawyer will succeed or barely survive, it depends on whether if he's flexible, ready to learn, and to adapt his practice to changes inflicted by the pandemic in the world economies. And I took a pains here to put a quotation from Uganda, which I found quite funny, but where the president had to say that if you refuse to stay outside, then whatever happens to you is at your own peril. And on page 33, I've let you know that even globalization deemed under threat in light of the virus accelerating effects and spread, which prompted national governments to close borders, impose travel bans, and declare curfews. And indeed, but whether we like it or not, we are still as much as closer to ourselves than we know. But we're already interconnected by phones and everything. So whether they close the borders or not, the borders are open on the World Wide Web. So it's not an excuse to say you can't do business in Lagos or in London because of this. Then I also say whether illegal profession will thrive or see the collapse of some firms after embarking on any of their association will critical choose to embrace remote proceedings. There's nothing you can do if you are a litigation lawyer. You'll still be there. If you do all this, your clients cannot even use WhatsApp or use any digital platform. It is difficult to do business with them. But what should you do? The lawyer is a leader in any community. So our job is to take the lead. Our bar association should take the lead in encouraging other stakeholders within the justice sector to take these initiatives and digitalize and go so that we all can still make money, earn a living during this period. So it's very important that you should be part of the solution. You must start first by automating. And slide 34, I've said that whatever training you give. So even if your clients are illiterate or are not able to adapt, you as a lawyer should be able to support their business during this period by providing them a platform for them to continue to earn a living. That way, as they are earning, you too will earn something. So that's why I said you must be part of the solution. And I've mentioned here that as a lawyer, we are an incurable optimist. That is, every entrepreneur is an incurable optimist. As a lawyer, we should be. Provide leadership to this sector and all its stakeholders by encouraging them to embrace and deploy technology to enhance the ability of the legal profession to be able to continue to provide services virtually through minimal person-to-person contact. In the long run, the legal professional who is able to quickly adapt and provide leadership and encouragement to these clients and potential clients is going to be the Jeff Bezos of this time. I'm sure a lot of you know familiar with the man called Jeff Bezos. He's the owner of Amazon. He has made $240 billion during this pandemic. So I think we should all think. So in the final analysis, bad things happen, I said, just like a pandemic. While the lawyer may not be able to control the pandemic and its outcome, the lawyer can control his attitude and how he deals with the pandemic and its implications. It is this positive attitude to the pandemic that will determine which legal professional may survive in the long run. The pandemic is only a challenge to the old way of law practice. It also represents a huge opportunity for every lawyer because people are making money. How do we get into it and also get our own share of that? So it's very important that the pandemic is just a main challenge to the old ways of doing things. And I put this last slide to encourage you that nothing lasts forever, not even coronavirus. I want to thank the chairman of the committee again and also the co-speakers for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Otumbadele Oye, for your robust presentation on how we could mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on our legal practice. One thing that has run through the presentations today is that we need to also need to rethink our mindset. So a positive mindset is important. There are opportunities in this whole pandemic, and we should be a part of the solution. Thank you very much. Distinguished participants, unfortunately, we have gone past our scheduled time for this meeting, and we may be able to take just a few questions. We will throw in just 3 questions briefly for our panelists to shed more light on. So the first question, I'm not directing it to any particular panelist, so any of you, can respond. Thank you very much. What measures can legal practitioners adopt to improve? Practical measures here now. Can legal practitioners adopt to improve the finances of their law firm?
Well, hello.
Hello, sir. We can hear you.
Yeah, well, first of all, I've already mentioned that I gave an example of how you can make savings from reducing the size of your practice. I mean, law of free space. Either if you are a practitioner of the big space, to minimize and invest part of that savings from rent on automation. Then if you are a junior lawyer, you ask yourself, say, I'm on a salaried, how do I survive? You have a duty now to make yourself relevant by being able to be part of the solution in your own firm, by providing support to your principal and also encouraging your principal to embrace digitization where you don't have. Then if you are now a sole practitioner and who is just with a law firm and you eventually live from hand to mouth, you say, how do I survive? It's simple. You retrain yourself, retool, reskill, and also make yourself relevant as part of the solution. Reach out, leave your traditional boundaries and reach out, join organizations, join various groups where you can likely to get potential clients. Join the Chamber of Commerce. I can assure you there are a lot of clients there for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Daly. Do we have any suggestions from the practice manager, please? Oluchi?
Yes, Ms. Mimi, I was going to respond as well. Well, from the practice manager perspective and from a human resource perspective as well, I stated this in my presentation earlier on. The way that you can, one of the ways or one of the schools of thoughts, if you go back to my presentation, your law firm can make money during this time is by diversification. I talked about managing your current clients, like the last speaker spoke. You know, your current clients, your past clients, keep tabs on them. By calling them and asking about their health, asking about their businesses, you can have more insights on what services that you can provide for them during this period. So for me, I think the answer as business owners is about collaboration across domains. This is collaboration across domains, and then also diversifying as well. These are practical terms. These are where your HR consultants will come in to help you. This is where your practice manager will come in to help you to create those platforms that you can use to create more finance and more wealth for your firm during this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Invariably, you have touched on the other questions or the question on building and enjoying practice, which you have one way or the other, touched on a little bit. So just the last question that I'm going to accommodate, how would you, what would you suggest to legal practitioners on what to do to deal with the supply chain, so to say, in legal practice? This is an area we need to maintain. How do we begin to I don't want to use the word market, okay, but it's somewhat that way. How do we sustain or build new supply chains, in legal practice?
You want to take first? Hello?
Oluchi, are you there? Yes, let us know. You could go first, sir.
Because I didn't get the question quite right.
Let us know.
Mimi, I think you should repeat the question because we didn't get the question quite right.
I was
yes.
asking, okay, so there's a question sent in that talks about how we could maintain or create new supply chain in our legal practice. So I think that I do not understand the question properly, but okay, because of time, I will not be able to say they should, explain. But then I think what the person, participant is wanting to what is seeking clarification for is that how do you build your clientele given the circumstances post-COVID-19?
So is this post-COVID-19 or during the crisis? Because I heard you say post-COVID-19.
Yeah, well, let's restrict it to post-COVID-19.
Okay, so how you can build your client post COVID-19 from a HR perspective and that of a practice manager. If you go to my last slide, unfortunately, I was not able to talk so much about it. It talks about collaboration, innovation, and strategy. Like I said, these are the three key areas that you must focus on. In terms of collaboration, you can collaborate with different people, just like the last speaker also talked about, getting briefs, even though they are not in your line of practice, but getting briefs and then collaborating with your other colleagues that are in such areas to get the job done. You can also do the same thing when it comes to IT. You can do the same thing when it comes to different aspects. When it comes to accounting, when it comes to human resource, when it comes to oil and gas. So if you expand your services, by collaborating with other people, you would genuinely create more clientele as well. And then when you talked, I think you talked about building your supply chain, if I heard you correctly.
Yes.
So the way you can build your supply chain is by being creative, becoming dynamic, being active, and then create value and provide value. Look, innovation strategy, when we talk about strategy, we talk about your business continuity plan. So innovation cannot be understated, strategy cannot be understated, collaboration cannot be understated, just like the second speaker spoke. Talked about technology. The profession itself is changing, and with the coming of coronavirus, with COVID-19, it is changing the reality of the profession. So you have to keep up with the trend so that you do not fall behind. And the only way you can keep up with the trend is by making sure that you are adaptive, which would make your law firm, which will make your practice become much more accessible. The resource that I gave, the last resource I gave, which a book which is titled Tomorrow's Leaders, by Richard Susskind, is a very good resource that will be beneficial to you. So if you read the book, it talks about the 5 evolution stages of law practice. If you read that book, you would have a better understanding of how you can build your supply chain and how you can get more clients. Over to you, Ms. Mimi. Thank you.
Well,
Thank
I would.
you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Oluchi.
Mimi.
Okay.
If I could say something.
Yes, please.
If first of all, I want all of us to know as lawyers. In my slide 32, I said the effect of coronavirus has come to stay. Even if they find a cure tomorrow, people are going to change their habits and the way they do things. Since we had terrorism 9/11, the way we fly changed. So the world has changed forever. So the lawyer must now sharpen his what? I've also referred you to my slide on 29 to 30, where I gave 24 survivor kits for lawyers for you to try. It's very important that you be able to make money online. And this is where that would be determining how you can survive as a lawyer. And so if you're not making money before by being able to work for your client remotely, that's what I mean. I'm not saying you have to find a way to work in this time. And the only way you can do that is to, first of all, automate, be relevant in digital space, and market your law firm and your services. Even when you are in WhatsApp groups, you'll be able to give opinions. There are people there watching to see that if you say something that is reasonable, or if even your own colleagues' platform, and they know that you have knowledge in that area, they will definitely consult you if they have partners in that area. And that is how you start opening the door for new clients. So it's very important you join the right group, join the right associations, join the Chamber of Commerce, if you are those in Rotary or whatever other platform, so that you can be able to expand your current scope. most people are restricted. They only have friends who are lawyers. Everything is law, law, law. No, you must made with the industry. Find a way to be involved with the industry. We have different organized private sectors, associations. Be part of them, be part of it. Because whether you like it or not, when I say this has come to stay, all is mindful times. So we must all be prepared to launch ourselves to this new disease. And as a lawyer, you must be a leader in this area. It's very important. Your attitude must be, how can I provide solution? Not that you be the one complaining. So please get to work. Thank you.
So,
Thank you very
Ms.
much.
Mimi. Yes, if I can add a few things to myself.
Okay, please, Babatunde. Just a few minutes, please.
Okay, all right. So the question has really been dealt with. So I'm just going to be coming briefly on from the aspect of information technology, that is IT now. Really, nothing is let's say life generally is not static. Everybody is moving forward. Everybody is trying to look for different ways to provide their own services, look for different people to serve, to offer their services to. And technology has really given businesses generally ways to reach different people. So if you are trying to look for other people to supply to, or existing persons to supply your services to, technology is the way forward. Like Mrs. Oluchi said, she said you have to be adaptive. You have to be adaptive, and being adaptive in this sense is for you to look for technological measures that you can use. You're talking about social networking now. Social networking at this time, is a very important tool. How do you market yourself? How do you put yourself out there? If you put yourself out there, put out content for people to see, then they are going to come looking for you. And when they come looking for you, then you build a new supply chain. It's more like unlocking a new blue ocean in that light. So I think that's what I would like to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, very erudite panelists this afternoon, for your time, for your presentation. We are grateful. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, we have overshot our session time by over 30 minutes. However, it was an engaging time and, of course, very educating at that. We would be sending, we will crave the indulgence of our speakers to answer the remaining questions, and of course, we will also forward all the presentation slides to our various email addresses as provided during registration. Thank you very much. At this juncture, may I most humbly and respectfully, on behalf of the Committee on Legal Practice of the NBA Abuja branch, thank you so much for attending the webinar as organized. We are very grateful. We appreciate our speakers for letting us in on their thoughts on this topic. And we hope to put all of these practical tips, and of course, we hope to be part of the solution in overcoming or beating the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much, and it is goodbye from my end. See you some other time. Good afternoon.